Okay, well, I am very excited to have Vanessa Rosewood, part of our conversation today. And maybe the first thing that we want to say is just, Vanessa, what's getting you excited these days?
Oh, well, getting a full night of sleep. Uh, oh, right. We're talking about something else today, though.
No,
Um,
we this one's super general.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, definitely getting a full night of sleep gets me excited. Generally spending time with my toddlers gets me excited. They are magical little beings. And then, of course, the exciting project I'm working on at Micro YYC gets me excited. So,
So why don't you tell us what got you interested in waste-free living? What's led to this passion?
yeah, I mean, I think it was a long time coming of just when I was younger, having general interest and leaning towards finding more eco-friendly ways to do things. Um, and just, wanting to eat good food and wanting the packaging not to be, over the top and, wanting to reduce my footprint however I could. But then I also spent a year working for the Recycling Council of Alberta, where I learned a lot about the back end of what recycling looks like in the world. And that really opened my eyes to the realities of recycling, and that putting something in your blue cart is not just like, great, this will be handled with care until it is perfectly recycled into a new product. Um, there, it's just so complex, and that really got me fired up. So it's something that's maybe taken a bit of a backseat as I got into urban farming and grew my business. Though obviously those values were infused in the decisions that I was making. But I'm excited that it gets to come back to the front and like be more of a central part of what we're doing these days.
Awesome. So I get super confused about plastics. Yeah, so maybe from your days there, like, what do these numbers mean? Like 7, 1, I don't know. Help me out.
Yeah, happy to help you out there, Rod. And anyone else who might be confused, because I know, so let's back up a little bit. Micro YYC uses a compostable plastic for their products, for our products that are going out into the world. And the confusion there lies with, there is a recycling symbol, the triangle on the bottom with a number 7. And so people often don't look very closely at the writing on the packaging that says compostable. So either they see the little triangle and they think, oh, it's recyclable, I'll put it in my blue cart. Or they see the word compostable and they put it in their green cart. And like, we'll get more into that, but neither of those actions is correct in Calgary. So yeah, I think there's some confusion around what the number 7 means on a package. And honestly, it just means other. It means not 1 through 6. So 1 through 6 have very specific types of plastic that they identify. And then number 7 is a catch-all for all the other miscellaneous types of plastic material out in the world. So some of those are recyclable. It depends on your municipality. And some of them are intended for a different end of life. So it's very confusing.
So I'll bet you have kind of all of the information that anyone that would need. So if anyone on the call has some specific questions about those numbers, maybe pop those into the chat and I can bring them into the conversation as we go. But why don't you so you use containers in your business. And so you've made a choice. Well, you had to make a choice between recyclable and compostable. So can you kind of walk us through your decision process and why you chose what you chose?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, if you're curious about exactly which numbers go where in Calgary, it's fairly clear on their website, the City of Calgary website. Though the number 7 is like there's pretty vague information about.
The dark horse.
Pardon?
The dark horse.
Yes. There's very specific directions not to put compostable plastic. into your blue cart, but yeah, it's kind of just like, it's not specific enough in my opinion, but just wanted to say that. But right, recyclable and compostable. So when I started my business in 2015, I was like picture like a young entrepreneur sets off on a grand journey and is trying to like have a small impact. Like it was really important to me to like not be just putting a bunch of plastic out into the world. And I wanted to do everything I could to keep my footprint as small as possible. Obviously, when you're running a business, you use resources. So there's no getting around that, but you can choose resources based on your values and do the best that you can based on what's available. So at the time, we didn't even have a green cart program in Calgary. There was no organics collection until 2017, but I knew that that was coming down the line. And so I made the decision to go with compostable because I thought that it was a better investment in taking steps in the right direction. Plastic is recyclable, yes, but recyclable does not equal recycled. And recyclable, yeah, the recycling industry has a lot of issues in it. And like globally, if I can share a statistic with you, all the plastic in the world that's been produced since 2050, only 9% of it has been recycled. So
Sorry, since when?
Since 2050. So that's like when we really started using a lot of single-use plastic.
You mean 1950?
And like, yes. There's that showing up. 1950. So yeah, basically, and annually in Canada, less than 10% of plastics actually get recycled. So there's just ends up in landfills, ends up in the broader environment, in the ocean, etc., while it's being shipped overseas. So I knew all that going in, and I just didn't want to like jump on that stream. Like it just didn't feel right. So I thought, okay, we don't have an end of life place for compostable plastic to go yet. Like we don't have the green cart, but I'm going to go in this direction and wait for the infrastructure to catch up. The second part of that story is that I found out that the city of Calgary Green Cart program doesn't accept compostable plastic, which was as shocking to me as it may be to some people who are listening, and often is to people that I tell that to. So yeah, so ever since then, we've been problem solving that. Yeah, I think that answers your why I chose compostable. Essentially, I'm just an eternal optimist, and I wanted to do the thing that had at least the potential to improve and get better and be innovated upon. And yeah.
I love that. So you chose, I mean, really what I'm hearing is your values kind of just shining through, saying, no, compostable is the best way to go. Unfortunately, Calgary cannot take my compostable packaging in their composting program. Again, probably shocking for many of you on the call. But you've persisted to do that regardless, because you recognize that, well, the recycling piece is problematic. And so I know with YYC growers, we're at the, we're in a similar conversation. We always look to you, Vanessa, because you're kind of leading the charge, which we are super grateful for. So yeah, I guess I've got two questions here that are about why you chose your container. But I think one of the things that that you're able to do with that container is you have a take back program. So that's how you've gotten around. Okay, don't send it to the city of Calgary because that's not going to work for you. But you initiated a return program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I wanted to add one more thing too to my reasons, which another reason is that in production, compostable containers have a smaller carbon footprint than the production plastics. So,
and when you say that, you're talking about the smelting and
Yeah, like
whatever.
the actual fabrication of them, there are like studies and whatnot that have compared that, and it does have a smaller impact on the environment than plastics. So that was another piece of the puzzle. I just wanted to add that. But yeah, so what we have come up with as like a stopgap, because I am optimistic that eventually there will be a program that regular citizens can access, like whether the city expands its program, improves its program, partners with somebody. This packaging material that's compostable I don't think it's going away. So I do think the infrastructure will catch up, but in the meantime, there are private compost companies in Calgary that can handle these materials, that have a slightly different composting process that's a little bit longer, a little bit hotter, that are able to break them down as intended. Because they are certified compostable, they do break down in the right type of facility, but the city of Calgary's composting process just isn't intense enough for them. So yeah, we have a private compost company that picks up our spent soil, and they are also able to take the containers. So we figured that we can find a way to get some of the containers back once people were done with them, and that could at least close part of the loop. But obviously it's not all of we don't get them all back by any means. But yeah, the YYC growers has been our number one, I don't know, the highest volume of container returns. I think mostly because it's a subscription program. People are coming back every week, so they just bring their containers with them when they pick up their next harvest box. And then, yeah, you guys ship them back to us through our driver, and then we put them in our green bins where they get composted. So it's certainly not perfect, but it's one solution that we've come up with to try to be responsible for the waste that we're putting out into the world.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it does go along with our egg carton returns and some of the other salad container boxes. And so, yeah, so we've been very pleased that people have taken us up on that. We're just now working on cardboard boxes that go out with our home delivery to try and get those to kind of come back to the warehouse so that we can do a bit of reuse until the cardboard maybe has no integrity left. Trevor does have a quick question on that pickup. Do you have a fee that you've got to pay for the company that picks those up?
Yeah, absolutely. We do pay per bin, so like the tipping fee or whatever. So yeah. So we are assuming the cost of getting those where they need to be.
Yeah, so there is a cost involved in that. You also have a waste product that some of us farmers have been able to make use of, which is your soil medium that you grow your microgreens in.
Yeah.
And so, Trevor, I throw that out. If you ever want extra soil, just hit up Vanessa and go pick it up, and it saves her a bit of money and gets you a free resource for some of your growing needs. It's been very helpful for us.
Yeah, that's been a great program. Yeah, we just, if people, mostly growers, farmers, but if anyone, even some of our neighbors at the warehouse, like that have acreages and whatnot, just need some organic material to like backfill garden beds or add to their compost piles. Yeah, we just get people to drop bins off, we fill them up, and then can haul them away. So
yeah, amazing. Now, so let's get back to waste free. So we've kind of been dancing around this idea that you've got information maybe that the rest of us don't have. You've been called the recycling bubble bursting fairy. And I think at this point we're ready for it. So why don't you give it to us?
Well,
burst our bubbles, Vanessa.
I think that's like I call myself that, hopefully so people don't hate me when I tell. I have really strong beliefs around like what they can put in their blue bin, what they can put in their green bin, and even if you tell them the truth, they'll still do it because they're optimistic, right? They want the best. They want it to go somewhere where it's getting reused. So I don't have like, you phrased it in a way that sounds like I'm going to say something new, but I think I've kind of already been bursting bubbles as
we've
we've
been
been
going.
It's mainly that these compostable containers are like, they don't go in your green cart, they don't go in your blue cart. So where did they go? They go in your black cart, which is a devastating option for people. I think people have a really hard time putting a plastic container in the garbage because we're so trained to put it in our blue cart. It feels wrong. So
Does feel wrong.
yeah, that piece of it, and just the, it's not as easy as just seeing a triangle on the bottom of the container, and that means for sure it's going to get recycled. If you put it in the blue cart, it's if it's compostable, then it's contaminating plastic recycling streams. If it is recyclable, there's a very small chance that it's actually getting recycled. Yeah, it's a massive issue. So it's like something, I'd like to, I hate to be the buzzkill at a party, but it's like, well, this is the truth of the matter. And, a lot of us want our municipalities to take responsibility for this, but like the reality is it's so complex. There's so many different types of materials that they just can't keep up. And so it does come down to obviously evolving on the municipality infrastructure side of things, but also companies becoming more responsible for their own waste and the choices that they make. And I know there's some extended producer responsibility legislation coming out in Alberta, and we're like one of the last provinces to do it. And I don't know what that looks like on a practical level, but it does mean that companies become, at least financially, more responsible for cost of collecting waste at the end of its life. And I'm not sure what it looks like in Alberta, like I said, on a practical level, but it brings it spreads the responsibility out a little bit. So it's not just up to the city to figure out what to do with everything and find a market to sell these things to. Because if you have no one to sell it to, then it's not getting recycled. So yeah, it's just it's many bubbles that I burst.
Right. So maybe let's say that in a bit of a different way. So like when you're talking about it being recyclable but not recycled, it really is because you need a buyer for all of the plastics in order for them to be recycled. And that was new information for me. And so maybe explain that a little bit more for people on the call.
Yeah, I guess just like the premise of recycling isn't necessarily all like environmental values and wanting to be green. And like the premise of recycling is that it's a market. So just like anything else, there has to be someone willing to take that plastic, clean it up, peel the labels off, do whatever, and convert it into a new plastic product, usually like pellets or something like that. And so every different waste stream that's recyclable, it's because there's a market for it. So that's why some municipalities take certain things and others don't. They just have to have somewhere for it to go. Like I know there was a while where the city of Calgary was stockpiling plastic clamshells in container or like sea cans or something at the landfill because they just didn't have anywhere to sell it. And that was after I think China closed their doors to plastic from overseas because they were just getting overwhelmed. Because most plastic is shipped overseas. There are some recycling facilities in Canada. I'm not sure what the ratio is of what gets recycled locally and what gets sent away, but I think most of it gets sent away. So yeah, it's just like anything. There has to be somewhere for it to go in order for that recycling loop to actually get closed. And it's a pretty dirty industry. Especially the countries that are bearing the brunt of receiving all of these shipping containers full of plastic mostly from Western countries.
Wow. Yeah, it makes me feel not great inside my body.
I burst my own bubble. I'm like, oh, it is. So I'm sorry if anyone else feels sad.
Well, and I mean, yeah, bubble bursting and frustrating. And I don't know if others on the call, but I'd like to maybe open it up to any other questions that people have. And you can either unmute yourself and ask your question or fire it into the chat. Yeah, just, I mean, one of the questions that's coming up for me is like, well, then what can I do? Like, also an eternal optimist like you, Vanessa, and I want the world to work in a closed loop way. And so what are some things that I can do? And maybe that's a question you can get going on while other people kind of maybe add theirs.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's never about doing everything perfectly, first of all. No one's perfect. And I think there's a quote floating around on the internet, like we need a bunch of people trying to move towards zero waste, like imperfectly versus a couple of people doing it perfectly. There are a lot of, so essentially the answer to that question is to try to find options that just don't create waste. Because even if it's greener waste or compostable waste or less of an impact waste, it still has to go somewhere. There's still a whole collection process that needs to be dealt with. So if there's some areas where there's an option that you can go towards zero waste, which or another way of putting it is a circular economy. And that's where if you're sending something out into the world in a container, that container is coming back and getting reused. And ideally we would have like big systems that use these, what's the word? Like that practice the circular economy, that all work together so that we can still have that convenience. But because right now it does look a lot like taking the convenience out of it and putting the responsibility onto yourself. So you can go to a like Canary Goods, or there's a few in Calgary now where you take your own containers and they have like bulk options and you can fill things up. From personal experience, that is a lot of work and it isn't necessarily cheaper. I would say you need to be pretty privileged to be able to take that route. So I think there's going to be a lot of different ways that shows up. It's not going to be just like one size fits all. So I think just taking small steps to like improve a little bit here and there is what we can do individually, and support businesses who are taking the chance and the risk to try out some of these programs.
Awesome. Jill throws in a question. I love how you start this, Jill. I hesitate to even mention the word politics, but we do have elections coming up, both locally and federally. How willing are you, Vanessa, and everyone here to be involved? What steps can we each take to let candidates know what matters to us?
I would say that this is definitely out of my realm of expertise. I do think politics play a role, and like government regulations absolutely play a role. So I know that this legislation that's coming in, the extended producer responsibility, is obviously a government regulation. So, but I don't have like a specific tip on that. If anyone else here does, though, I'd be happy to hear from them, because I know there's more to be done there. And I've been so focused on just like creating a solution, a practical solution for my business, that I have lost sight of the bigger picture in government land.
Well, and if I can jump on that, because we come across this quite often in our work, because we are farmers generally, and we are trying to put our heads down and coming up with solutions. And so what we desperately need is people in our community that can help support us by doing the policy work. And that's something that we don't have capacity to fit into the way that we're working. I know that there is like the waste-free living event that happens in Calgary, and so there is that group, and I know that they are working on policy, and so maybe that's a way for people to kind of get involved. And I don't know. I mean, I do feel like I know the federal government, we were supposed to get rid of single-use plastic in 2021. Well, it is 2021 this year, and I haven't really heard any kind of governmental heavy-handed push in that direction. Of course, we were also in the midst of a global pandemic, where I ended up seeing, we almost got there in terms of our straws, and now we've got other things that are littering the oceans. And so like it's an interesting journey that we're on. And I think the government can play a role in putting some of those restrictions, because companies like you and like YYC growers that are wanting to lead in this area, trying to reduce our waste, just because we know it's the right thing to do. It'd be nice to kind of have some policy pressure that says that we're not alone in kind of that leadership that we're playing in those areas, and to kind of have a bigger impact by some of that policy. So my request to you, Jill, is like, do you have some political leanings or some willingness to kind of figure out how to do the letter writing or who to talk to and all that kind of stuff? I didn't realize we were going to get political today, but maybe that's a thing. Like, know who your counselor is, that's going to be running for your ward, so we can tackle it at a federal or at a local level. But then obviously kind of a federally, that's, more decisions need to be made on that as well. Trevor does ask, oh, sorry, Vanessa, go ahead. You got another comment?
You mentioned one event or group there, and also there's Plastic Free YYC, a nonprofit in Calgary that works on this type of thing. I'm not super familiar with their policy pressure and that sort of thing, but they've helped me, like they've created some resources for me and research for me to be able to reference. I engaged them to do that, to make sure that I had good information. So supporting groups like that is certainly something you can do at a local level that allows you to be part of a community of like-minded people. So, and then support their efforts, which is, when we do it together, often it's a little bit easier. It certainly needs from many directions though.
Anything helps. Yeah, for sure. And plastic free. So we used to have a volunteer group with YYC growers that was looking at getting rid of our plastics, because vegetables often do come with plastics, and we can probably get into that conversation a little bit. But one of the board members from Plastic Free YYC was on our volunteer crew, and so would highly recommend kind of getting involved with them. They do have a lot of kind of information, and they are behind the what's it called, the celebration, the
event
free, the event,
waste zero waste
free, that's right, zero waste, that's right. And Trevor asks, would having tighter restrictions on packaging do anything?
I mean, it might like streamline the sheer volume of types of packaging. It could, I suppose, like if there was only 10 kinds of plastic to deal with instead of 85. It might be easier, but I don't know. It'd be nice if there could be more like local loops, so that we could curate for our city, like what are we using the most of, and then how can we use that locally versus this like giant global system where there's many inefficiencies. I think that's part of it. There's always going to be waste created from the things that we do in the world and the things we consume, but the more we can find alternative and like circular economy solutions where there just isn't waste created, that's going to be how we that's the best solution. Obviously there's many steps along the way that are moving in that direction. There's a grocery chain called Loop that's just come to Canada. I think it's in Ontario now, and it's an online, you shop online, you can buy most of your favorite brands and whatnot, the big brands, you get delivered to your house, and all the packaging is reusable and it gets sent back. And I think you can send it back through like any FedEx location. It's like very well networked. And then those companies get the containers back and reuse them. This is something that's been going on in Europe. for a while, and it's only just come to Canada. So if I think it's just like loop.com or something, and it's a big company, big grocery chain. So there are things like that that are starting to happen, so that it's not like this whole other thing where you have to take your containers to a store. It's like trying to integrate that circular economy right into the way that we already purchase consumer goods. And I think that'll be, yeah, I mean, there's dealing with the waste, and then what else can we do that's better? And I don't know all the answers.
Yeah. I'm curious, so maybe just a little, like, are you proud of YYC Growers' efforts to try and move away from plastics?
Am I proud? Yeah, of course I'm proud. uh, yeah, I do think it's, again, that's been complicated because because some vegetables need to be in a bag or in a airtight something or other in order to stay fresh. So we also have to balance food waste with the amount of packaging that we're using. Like in my business, I need to use single-use packaging because I need to keep my product fresh and safe until someone is able to purchase it and consume it. So we do have to weigh those needs, which are absolute needs, with making the transition to less waste or a different kind of waste that's a little bit better, like compostable bags, which are great, but they also I'm also a Harvest Box customer, and and when I get stuff delivered in a compostable bag, seems like the greens are doing well in those little green bags. But like root veggies and stuff, I always transfer them to like a Ziploc or a container because the compostable bag gets weird in the fridge. Like it's a different material. So there is there's a learning curve. There's a lot of trial and error on our part, like trying to find the right thing for the right product. So it's complex and it takes a long time. And so I know our customers really want that, and that's great. And I hope that they're like along on the journey with us, and letting us do the trial and error and the imperfect steps forward. But I think we're doing great. I'm impressed, especially as someone who gets it as a delivery. Like when you're picking up in person, there's a lot of stuff you can just grab in bulk, and dump it in your shopping bag. But
Right.
for delivery, different requirements.
Right. Yeah, that's good to hear. And I know we definitely did go to bulk for most of our routes, but I mean, you shed light on the home delivery model, which is a little bit different. And yeah, that was really largely from customer pressure. And so, to kind of jump back to Jill's comment, like we can make a difference. We can, by what we hope to see in the world, and by using our voices, we can make those differences. And I love how you kind of ended that there, Vanessa, just inviting people on the journey for us. To kind of fail and experiment and give us feedback on a rotating basis. So I think that's super important. And Chantal, thank you so much, because I was doing a little bit of trying to dig up those things, but Chantal throws in the local refilleries, and so you can see them there: Canary Goods, Without Co, the Apothecary, Use It Again store, and Do Your Part Refillery. So that is brilliant. I was like, we need to put these in there. So the hive mind is alive and well. So Chantal, thank you for that. And then Barbara also asks, how can we get in touch with Vanessa? And maybe there's something that you want to say more specifically about Micro YYC, Vanessa. So how can we get in touch, and tell us a little bit more about what's coming?
Yeah, and I'm going to answer that. And I have one more thing to add to what you said, Rod, because I think it is a good point that YYC Growers has really shifted due to customers asking us to. And it's not because we didn't care or we didn't want to. Like we're like a prime example of a group of people who care a lot about what they're doing in this world. But it is difficult to make these shifts. And so with a little bit of, vocal feedback from our customers, it's really pushed us forward. So it does, asking whoever your suppliers are for your goods, your stores, your farmers, asking them, saying it, that does make a difference. So I just wanted to add that. And yeah, so Micro YYC, the best way to like keep tabs on what we're up to is definitely to follow us on Instagram. That is where we are most active. We also have an email newsletter if you want a little bit more in-depth behind the scenes kind of information. And you can sign up for that at microyyc.com. We do not have a website yet. That's just a landing page. But after almost 7 years in business, the website is coming. So that's very exciting. And there is going to be obviously information about Micro YYC and the team and all of that, but there's also going to be a resources page that goes in everything I've shared today about our journey with packaging and why we've made the decisions we've made, and what we know. We're creating a resources page for that as well. So there will be somewhere you can go and just read about all of these things if you like that sort of thing. And if you're here, I assume that perhaps you do. So and yeah, so the other exciting news that we have is that Micro YYC is launching a new zero waste initiative in less than 2 weeks. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because we're announcing it on September 9th. We'll be doing an Instagram live around lunchtime. So just stay tuned on our email list will be best, but on Instagram, we'll make an announcement as well. But yeah, on the 9th, we'll be announcing the new program, and it will be an entirely zero waste offering. So we are very excited about this, and we are really looking forward to getting our microgreens out into the world with no single-use packaging at all. You'll still be able to get our greens at the store because that's like where most of our business happens. And that's where a lot of people shop and get their groceries. And we definitely want to make sure we're reaching everybody, but we are adding this new stream to our business. And yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Again, Vanessa leading the charge, and we really appreciate that. When you said that your website wasn't done, I think we need to maybe bring you back on a business coaching kind of thing, because I've heard, again, like doers, you know, you got to get it out, prove the concept, all that kind of stuff before you make the fancy website. So you definitely took that path, and I think there's something for us to learn there as well. So there. I think, I mean, unless there's any other burning questions for Vanessa, I think follow her at Micro YYC. You're constantly learning a lot. Sign up for the newsletter also there at microyyc.com. And if you are new to YYC growers, we do have a code for you. And this is called YYC Education. I put it in the chat there. So if you put that in as a promo code, you get $10 off your first subscription with YYC growers. And just a reminder that we go full on through the winter. We have a lot of great options for local fresh vegetables that are grown through the winter here in Calgary, and put that to kind of the local storage vegetables as well. Another thing that's happening today is it's the launch of Calgary Pride, and YYC Growers has put together a rainbow vegetable pack. So you can find that on our website. And so $5 of the purchase from that will go to Calgary Pride. They also have a fundraiser tonight in which you could be the winner of a farm tour out to Happiness by the Acre with a farm tour and a lunch with some wine pairings and some other swag. So if that is of interest to you, you can go check that out at the Calgary Pride website as well. I think you're gonna have to do some Googling. I was trying to get it up there into the chat for you today. But yeah, so lots of exciting things happening with YYC growers in this time. And we are in a big push to kind of increase our subscribers. And so if you are a subscriber of YYC Growers, feel free to use your Refer a Friend card, because that will always get you $5 added to your account. And just make sure that they give give us your name when they sign up, and we make sure that happens. And that's everything. I really appreciate your time, Vanessa. And go kiss those babies for us all, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for letting me talk about the thing that I'm passionate about. So really appreciate it. And thanks for being here. Nice to get to chat with some of you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in from the chats. So really appreciate your time, everyone, and till next time.